How to make an open front hoop skirt. First, the materials that you're going to need. Double folded bias tape, elastic for the waistband, herringbone ribbon, and of course steel boning. Make the waistband out of elastic first. The piece of elastic should be just a little bit longer than your waist size. That way you can overlap the two pieces of elastic to attach them together. I use many zigzag stitches to make sure that the elastic won't come apart. Now we need to figure out how big our hoops are going to be. The first method I tried was just holding it around my mannequin and guessing. The other method is to base it on a different hoop skirt that you might have, or you can just use the measurements that I figured out. Normally a hoop skirt will get bigger each layer. However, this is a little bit different because we have the open front section. On my hoop skirt, it's about 6 inches between each hoop. However, this is going to vary depending on how tall you are. You need to determine how long the front piece needs to be. I figured out the length of my front pieces by holding up a piece of steel boning to my mannequin, which I had set to my height. Now that we have our measurements, we're going to cut our steel boning. On the hoops that are a full hoop, you need to add about 1 or 2 inches so that you have some overlap. Now we need to measure out the bias tape so we can make a casing for our hoop. Make sure to add a little bit of seam allowance at the end. You're going to sew your bias tape closed. This is a little tricky because you need to sew right on the edge. When you get to the end of the bias tape, make sure to leave some of it open. After you have your tube, you're going to attach the two ends together so that it's a circle. This section here where you didn't close it all the way is where the steel boning is going to go in. Before you insert the steel boning, put some tape at the end so that it doesn't poke through your bias tape. Continue to feed the steel boning through the channel until you get basically into this position where you have one end through one hole and one end out the other. This is where our slight overlap comes in handy. We're going to tape those two ends together. Now we're going to hand sew this little opening shut. I recommend hand sewing for this because it's very easy to break a needle on that steel boning. So even though a sewing machine might be quicker, this is definitely the better and safer way to go. Now we have one hoop completed. Woohoo! Now we just have to do it a bunch more times. The only real difference of the open hoops is that they're going to end instead of connect. So instead of it being a round circle, it's really just going to be a line. After we attach them, they will be more of that semicircle shape. The next step is attaching the ribbon to the waistband. So you're going to take 6 ribbons and sew them to the waistband. Only one of the ribbons is going to be short, and that's the one in the front. When attaching the hoops to your ribbons, just use clips to hold them in place until you have everything set where you want it to be. Once you sew it, you're kind of stuck. I recommend using a measuring tape to make sure that you're keeping all of your hoops an equal distance apart. Don't forget the 2 front pieces should also be steel boning. This is what helps keep that open front open. Now for the most tedious part. We need to attach the hoops to our ribbon. Again, you have to do hand sewing or you're going to hit that steel boning. Once you've sewn it across the bottom edge, make sure to tie it off and trim it. Then sew the top edge onto the ribbon. You are going to do this over and over and over every section that the hoop touches the ribbon. But it's all worth it. Thanks for watching. Follow for more cosplay content.